On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, with now 7 games to play on the campaign, where do you want the Sixers seeding and who do you prefer for them to play? There are 3 teams to really look at between Miami, New York, and Brooklyn. We'll dive into it next, give our opinion right here, Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Basketball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your basketball franchise? Then this game is definitely for you. To download the game, just visit ultimatebasketballgm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On. That's all capped, Locked On in the game. Welcome. You're Locked On 76ers. I'm Devon Gibbons from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia, alongside my co-host and partner as always, Sixers beat writer for the Enquirer.com, and that is Keith Pompey. What's up, Keith?
What's poppin', D? How you been, bro?
Doing all right, man. Getting ready for this game against the Mavericks tonight.
It should be a good one.
Well, let's see. They put up a lot of points the last time, both teams, and Sixers couldn't defend. Dallas couldn't defend. And it was a high-scoring game in that one. Before we get into it all, we have to thank everybody for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available on all platforms, including right here on YouTube at Locked On 76ers. All right, Keith, we got to get into our keys to the game later on, as we know about this Dallas team, having seen them a few weeks ago, and we saw how that did not go well against the Sixers defense. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll also get into the availability of James Harden and Joel Embiid, update the folks on where things are as we record. But first, we need to talk about the fact that on Tuesday night, the 76ers got a little help from the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, and the who was the other team I said lost last night, Keith?
It was what Cleveland lost.
Cleveland lost also. So all 3 teams, Boston, Cleveland, and Miami, all dropped. Why is that important? Because Boston is in front of the 76ers. So right now, at the moment, they are 2.5 games up on the Sixers right now for the number 2 spot. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they are now 2 games back of the Sixers, who are currently holding down the 4th spot, with Philadelphia in the 3rd. And the Miami Heat are a half a game back of the Brooklyn Nets for the 6th seed in the NBA playoffs. So right now, your play-in tournament teams look like Miami, Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago. Washington is right there on the outs, 2.5 games back of the Bulls for that number 10 spot. That's the only way I think things could change there for the 10th seed. So right now, really, it's about Brooklyn, Miami, and Atlanta. Atlanta, Toronto are tied with an identical record of 38-38 with 6 games left to play. Keith, if you were to look at these teams of where the 76ers could potentially land, if they stay in the 3rd spot, they get the 6th seed. If they move up to the 2nd seed, they get the 7th, the winner of the 7-8 play-in tournament seed right there. So we don't know who that would be. And if they fall back to 4, which is probably unlikely, they would then take on, it looks like the New York Knicks would be the team in the 5th spot. So the Sixers currently right now will play the Brooklyn Nets in the 1st round. What's the more interesting matchup, I guess, is how I phrase it to you to start things off?
Well, of the Nets, Brooklyn, and Miami, the more interesting one?
The Knicks, Nets, and the Heat, yeah.
I would say the more interesting one is just based off of storylines would have to be Miami. I mean, as long as Jimmy Butler is there and as long as he plays the way he does against the 76ers, that's always going to be the most interesting storyline. I also think that I do think that Brooklyn is going to be interesting too. I mean, all 3 of them. And Brooklyn, the thing about Brooklyn is, is because you already know what the storylines are going to be. It's going to be Mikal Bridges, and it's going to be one of those things where this is the guy that y'all let go and look at him. So I think that's the one. But to be honest with you, the preferred one, if I'm a Sixer, if I'm the Sixer, the team that I want to play is Mikal Bridges and the Brooklyn Nets, because I don't know if they're quite there just yet. I feel like that they're a good team, they're a young team, but they're also a new team, meaning, you look at their starting lineup, only one of the guys who start was on the team from the beginning of the season. And of the five guys in the starting lineup, he's the fifth option, like offensively. So you look at it, this is going to be a great team. They have a lot of assets to build on this team. But I also think that this is a team that needs a training camp. They need more games to get under their belt. So no matter what they do is a bonus. So if I'm the 76ers, if I had to face one of those three squads, that's the team that I would prefer to face right now.
I can't disagree with that as far as if you're looking at it from the Sixers point of view, inside their offices, inside their training facility, that yes, they would probably prefer to take on the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn has won 3 of their last 10, so they've been struggling a bit, even though they are in that 6th seed. They've been having some troubles as of late. And to your point, um, they are not quite there just yet this season. Training camp is going to be important. The offseason in general is going to be important in terms of how to continue to build the roster, since the turnover has been so big. They're going to have to figure all of that out. So for them, yes, the one that would be the preferred team and the preferred matchup will be the Brooklyn Nets in round 1. For the best storyline, I disagree with you. And I think it's the New York Knicks, because of the Atlantic Division, the rivalry that, while the Jimmy Butler part with the Miami Heat has been a rivalry of sorts since he left and playing him in the playoffs a season ago, that's absolutely a fantastic storyline and will never go away. As long as Sixer fans and media are going to talk about Jimmy Butler leaving Philadelphia. But for the Knicks to be back, for the Knicks to have had their way with the Sixers during the regular season, for, if you're talking about Mikal Bridges, you also talk about Jalen Brunson with his ties here. You speak about Tom Thibodeau and his defense and how they're able to defend against the Philadelphia 76ers, the Leon Rose Worldwide West angle of things that go along with their Philadelphia ties. But more so than anything, it's the Atlantic Division opponents, 2 longtime rivals, facing off in the round 1, where the Knicks are a tough team. And the Sixers have had success against a lot of squads this year. New York has had their number, and that's New York has had Boston's number in the regular season. How would that translate to the postseason for a 7-game series? And how quickly could the Sixers get rid of the New York Knicks? And the other part with that, Keith, is that the challenge of how much the Knicks are going to make you work and get ready for the second round matchup against either Boston or Milwaukee should you advance. So I'm going with the Knicks, and I think that's a huge, huge, huge storyline. When we talk about games being set up by the NBA of when these games are going to be played, you better believe if the Sixers and the Knicks are playing in that first round matchup, then man, that's going to be in primetime television for every game.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. I mean, and it's crazy. It's kind of like the Amtrak series, so not like the Subway series, but the Amtrak series, and you could take the trains to the game. But
Yeah,
it is. I mean, and I get where you're coming from. I just feel like, as good as the Knicks are, and all those storylines, and the great, like the one thing we didn't talk about with Thibodeau being Doc's former assistant when they won the championship with the Bulls.
familiarity there.
Yeah, familiarity there. And but I just think that that would be a major upset if the Knicks would beat the Sixers. I feel like with Jimmy Butler, and let's say Kyle gets healthy, a lot of other guys, I feel like they can beat the Sixers. I do.
Really?
I just do. I mean, I just
I don't.
I think they can. I think the mental edge they got the mental type of thing. I think that Eric Spoelstra doesn't get enough credit as a coach because of the players he had and because of Pat Riley. But I think he's a phenomenal coach. I also think that um, South Beach can become dangerous. I mean, guys go down there for a couple of days, they have a good time. You would think that they would get that out of their head, but it can be dangerous. And I just think that I don't know. And here's something else we got to understand too. Beating Miami would be kind of sort of exercising, getting rid of a demon, so to speak, right? So that's the team that they lost to last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting over that hump. And then you go in the second round, and hopefully you'll be able to get over that hump if you're the Sixers, second round hump. So I don't know. Is there something about Jimmy Butler going up against the Sixers? I just think it's good. But yeah, I agree with you about the
It would
Knicks.
be a fun matchup. It would
Mhm.
be, but it would be more second than it would be first for me. I would take the
Yeah,
Knicks. Yes.
yeah.
So real fast, let me ask you this before we get to updating on Joel Embiid and James Harden's availability for the game tonight against Dallas. If you and I are sitting there and predicting what the schedule will be like if it's the Knicks, let's start with them. The playoffs start on Saturday, which is the 14th. And Keith, I wouldn't think they would play until the 15th on Sunday. If
Could
it's New
be.
York. If it was New York.
Now the only thing about that is you got to understand, like a lot of times they'll give one of those play-in teams an extra day. You know what I mean? So yeah, but
Yeah.
that's Sunday. But you can play games anytime you want to, right? Like anytime today.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a nice, midday game. Heck, 3-6 seed if they or 4-5, whatever it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an intriguing one. That would be a nice one. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that.
I would see Sunday, if not at noon or 1 o'clock, it would be the 3:30 game.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
They would
Definitely
try
a
to
good
keep the
one.
West Coast on the West Coast to start things off on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think. Now, if they say in 3 and it's Brooklyn, Saturday, early or late?
I think that's one of them early games you get over with. I hate to say it.
Yeah, early NBA TV.
Yeah, that's early. That's a noon game right there, bro. I
I
mean,
don't know if
because
it's noon on the Saturday.
because I think like
Yeah.
right now, I mean, I think people are looking at the Nets right now. It's like, I mean, they're good, but they're looking at them as if they're
Yeah.
a year away. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They're a year away, and I feel like if it was still okay if before the trade, it would have been like, okay, they're much see TV, and it's not just because of winning. People want to see what's going to happen off the court. You know what I mean? It's just the storylines. I think that you know it's
I could see them sneaking a steal in game 1.
the best TV game, the best TV series would be the Knicks and the Sixers. Like Miami, unfortunately, Miami has Jimmy, but they don't draw a lot nationally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn may draw some nationally, but they don't draw a lot in their own market. And maybe right now they may not draw a lot. The best one would be for TV would be the Knicks and the Sixers.
And all right, after this one, we'll step away for a quick break. Miami and the Sixers, Saturday or Sunday, if you were to predict that one.
That'd probably be a Saturday one too. Look, I just did the poll
Later.
on Twitter.
Later.
Huh?
Would that be a later?
Nah, that I think that's an early one too, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I just did the poll right now, so I did it probably
Okay.
10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
75% of the people so far. So you guys can follow me
That's right. Follow him.
on
Pompey
Twitter, and
on
you can
Sixers.
also vote as well. It's Pompey. 74% of the people, 432 votes, have the Brooklyn Nets. New York Knicks have 14%, and the Miami Heat have 12%. And right now is at 432 votes. I'll give y'all an update as the by the time
So
we
that's the preferred team for right now to start the playoffs. Okay, you
Mhm.
got it. All right.
Mhm.
Well, listen, folks, when we come right back, in order for them to play and get off to a good start in the postseason, with still 7 games left in the regular season, we're not ignoring that. They have to have their stars out there. Joel Embiid, James Harden, where are they? What's their availability for tonight's game? We'll get into that on the other side right here on Locked On 76ers. But I also have to tell you, as I'm a big fan of the game, Keith is as well, Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. I told you that it is the presenting sponsor for this episode here on Locked On 76ers. Please, as I've been telling you and pulling Keith in on this, I've downloaded the app. You need to download the app, test it out, and put your team together. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is the coolest game I've played in a long time. I don't get to play a lot of games or video games or even on the app because I'm just simply too busy. But I got pulled into this one and I found it very intriguing, very unique. And I've always thought that I would be a great GM. As it turns out, it's not all that easy. Maybe not for you, but for me, it is. I'm pretty darn good. If you have the same thought and have fantasized about managing your own basketball franchise, go and download Ultimate Pro Basketball GM right now. Go check it out. It allows you to manage every strategic aspect of a franchise, just like you would for Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Chicago, if you were the one making the real decisions for those franchises. Build a historic dynasty in the simulation. You're responsible for dealing with challenging personalities of the players and coaches. You know how they can be. How are you going to deal with that? Hiring the right coaches and assistants, trading and training players, making draft picks. We all talk about it around the draft time where you feel like, how did my team not select this player? Well, you have the option of doing so, navigating your franchise through free agency, signing the right people in the draft, all up and downs of the multiple seasons. You all have wanted to do it. This is the opportunity for you. Locked On 76ers listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On. That's in all caps in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probasketball.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probasketballgm.com, Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty and come check in with me today. Welcome back. Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Keith, if you were doing this, because you know I told you I would hire you as my GM and my coach because I trust you to do those things. As we look at the Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis, let's start there. I'll just start there before we get to Embiid and Harden for tonight. Ultimate Basketball GM, Keith Pompey. You're my guy. Who's your first pick, man? Of the three.
That's a good one. Wow, that's a tough one.
You get the number one overall pick. Yeah.
I mean, if it was the draft, if it's weird. Like, that's a tough one. And this is no offense to Embiid, no offense to the Joker. But I don't know. I might go with Giannis. I mean, because as good as they are, this dude can play he doesn't have a position, right? I mean, the brother can't shoot, he can't do this, but he can do a lot of other things. I think, as much as I would love to go with Embiid, his injury history concerns me a little bit. The Joker is a good player. His defense concerns me a lot. Good player though. Embiid's elite, but when you look at Giannis and all the different things that he can do, and I know he can't shoot, but he could do a lot of other things, man. We're talking about a guy who won a championship, talking about a guy who was a 2-time MVP, defensive player of the year. It's like, and he's 7 feet tall, so he's bigger than the Joker. He's just a little bit shorter than Embiid, But there was a time, remember a couple of years ago, they had him playing a point guard.
Yeah.
He thought he was a point guard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, man. Like, as far as, a guy that you can build around and you can fit other pieces in around with him and he can play, he's extremely versatile. I got to go with him.
Well, he's the best player in the NBA. But again, doesn't mean he's having the best season. That just means he's the best player. And I actually have him third in the MVP, even though I don't have a vote. You do. I have him third right now. But as far as building your team, you start with him.
Who
And
should I vote for, D? Who should I vote for? Tell me.
I still think it's Embiid.
Yeah,
I still think it's Embiid. One game.
You ain't hop off the bandwagon like everybody else.
No, I did not. I think it's ridiculous. It's insane that one game would determine that because he sat out. Did he not score enough in the game? No, he didn't, because he didn't play. So how did he not perform well enough to have? And it's not like Jokic with the triple double, which is very easy for him at this stage of his career. It's not like they've done anything superhuman to take over the mantle as the leader in the clubhouse for the MVP. But I would go Giannis, Embiid, and then Jokic. And there's no wrong answer because all three are great players in today's league. So I was just curious, as we talk about ultimate basketball GM, building your own team, I would start with Giannis. Yeah, I'll start with Giannis. Available tonight, maybe. We'll see. Questionable. Joel Embiid dealing with the sore calf. And James Harden misses the last 4 games?
Yeah,
with the Achilles. And that's not anything to be playing with. Neither is Embiid's calf, especially at his size of 7'2". What's your gut telling you on this one? You had a pretty good gut with James Harden. He went through everything. It looked like he was going to play in the last minute. Backed out. They didn't play. Give him an extra rest. And maybe they just figured out, when we get home, the stretch run, 7 games, let's rock and roll from there. What are your predictions? Because quite honestly, Heath, I think they both played tonight against Dallas.
It's weird. It's a weird one. I mean, it's funny. Like for Embiid, I would keep him out just for. I mean, I would keep him out just to just give him an extra day.
One more. Okay.
Just give him one more day, right? And then it's actually 2 more days because they're not going to do anything tomorrow, right? And then they got Toronto, a good division foe, coming into town on Friday. And then Sunday, you got the Milwaukee game. So, like, I think, you give them that Toronto game, they should probably be able to handle Toronto, you would think. And that could be like a little prelude to, like, the big matchup against Milwaukee, then Boston. So, like, you know what I mean? So I think that, you don't want to overdo it with him. That's just my opinion. Now, who knows? Embiid does what he wants. And if he wants to play, he's going to talk his way into playing. The Harden situation, I think that right about now is like, he injured himself last Monday, or he felt the pain before last Monday's game. So he's going to have like 9 days off of rest. And I feel like this would be a perfect time to bring him back. I mean, it would. In that workout I saw him, he looked very well. He performed well. Like I said, he hit the ball off, ricocheted off the backboard, caught it, boom, dunked it. So, he looked well. I feel like, this could be a game for him to come back and play. Now, again, coming back against the Toronto guards, but coming back against Kyrie and Luka is a completely different thing. You know what I mean? Like typically, no offense to Toronto, but typically, when you bring a guy back, you want to have them come back against lesser opponents so you can gradually bring them in. You don't want them to have to exert too much energy on that first game. So, but I think that, the time is now for him he got to get back. He got to get back into playing ball. He has to get back and doing stuff. And let's face it, even though it will be better to do an easier path, his team needs him. So I feel like tonight will be the night for him.
Yeah, that'd be good to have him back. And the only reason I say the Embiid part, why? Because I still do believe that regardless of what he says, he still wants to win that award. And yes, there was a lot of, fire and smoke and all coming out of people's noses and ears because they didn't get the matchup that they wanted selfishly. And I still do believe that he wants to win that and make sure that he has enough games played and go out there and dominate the way that he has been able to do so to still lock that one down. So that's why I think that he will play tonight. And they also need to snap this 3-game losing streak and pick up these wins. While they did get help from those teams knocking off Washington, beating Boston, Atlanta taking care of Cleveland, and then Miami also falling, they they need to go out there and get a W, and that's why I think that those guys will toughen it out and try to get out there and play and get a W while they're home for these couple of games here. They have 4 more games at home, 3 more on the road, and tonight that starts the 2-game homestand with Dallas and Toronto on Friday. All right, Keith, on the other side, we do have to get into the keys to tonight against Dallas, and I think we both agree on one thing, and we'll tell everybody what that is on the other side. Final segment right here on Locked On 76ers.
Before we get into this, I want to talk about one thing though, D. Before
Yeah,
we say that,
yeah,
the thing about Embiid thing is, I think Embiid's in a no-win situation because you're right. If you want, you say, come back now, but if he comes back now, then the critics are going to be like, I told you, he was just ducking them. He was ducking them. He was good. He was good to play. He could have played.
yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, and I hate them, but I'm telling you, that's what some of the critics are going to say. Like, if it was really bothering them, he would have took an extra day off, a couple more days off, right? So it is what it is, but he just can't win. It's just a situation. You can't win. You can't win right now. But talk about FanDuel. The tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. There's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked on and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the nets. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/locked on and sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
Welcome back. Locked On 76ers. That's Keith Pompey. I am Devon Givens with you. All right, man. We got to talk about the 76ers and the Dallas Mavericks. The last time these two teams met, Keith, it was a fun game. I'll say that much. It was definitely a fun game as the Dallas Mavericks handed them a loss 133-126. 25 made 3-pointers by the Mavericks. Luka Doncic with 42, Kyrie Irving with 40. As they were able to outlast the Sixers, they got 35 from Embiid in that game. And it was a shooting display that was just crazy by the Dallas Mavericks. So high-scoring game. We know they can score, the Dallas Mavericks. That's the #1 thing that they're going to have to do tonight, Keith, is to slow down and defend the perimeter. They cannot allow that to happen once again in this game. If they do, that's on them. Terrible job. You know what they're going to do. They're 37-39. Dallas right now they're fighting to get into the playoffs, Keith. They're tied with OKC for the 10th spot, half a game back of the Lakers.
That's crazy.
In the 9th spot. And they have lost 7 of their last 10 games. While they won their last one, they've lost 7 of the last 10. So they haven't been playing all that well. And when they played the Sixers on that day where they outlasted them by 7 and hit all those shots, it was they were on a tough streak there too, losing streak there. So the Sixers need to come out here and handle this team, man, because we've seen how ugly it can get fast when playing this squad. So #1 for me, they have to defend the perimeter.
Yeah, I agree, and that's it, and that's it right there, D. I mean, that's it, defending the perimeter, because when you look at it right now, when you look at the 76ers and you look at Dallas, I mean, Dallas is set up to beat the Sixers. I mean, their roster is kind of like bad for the Sixers, because see, what happens is you're going to have you got 2 guys in the perimeter who can shoot, who can score, who can dominate. and the Sixers struggle in perimeter D against those type of players. And then all that does is set up things wide open for other guys to get open shots, open looks, and just destroy them like they did the last time. And to me, especially now, here's the thing: this is where you really miss Embiid because his rim protection, his ability to keep people in front of him, his ability to call out things and help out his teammates. This is when that typically goes unnoticed. But on games like tonight, or when you're really going to miss it if he doesn't play. So I'm with you 100%. Like, to me, I could see the 76ers losing this game just because of the Kyrie and the Luka Doncic impact. And I think that these are two great ISO guys. And I just look at the defense that James Harden has and how he struggles on that end, and Tyrese Maxey struggles. And I also don't know if, as good as DeAnthony Melton is, if he could keep Kyrie in front of him. So I just feel like this is just a tough matchup for the 76ers.
I actually think they win tonight and beat this team. And Dallas, as we just talked about them on the road, the Mavericks are 15-23. So they do have their struggles on the road, especially when you have a 37-39 record. You look at that, you see it's going to be lopsided somewhere, and their 15-23 record on the road is not good. So Dallas, while they can do all those things, if the Sixers do defend the perimeter like we just mentioned and not allow 25 threes to be made, I think they have more than a good enough chance to win because they cannot stop Embiid. Harden, if he's playing at a decent enough level in his first game back, where he's still able to at least get double-digit assists with his points, that'll bode well. And then the Tyrese Maxey factor, their defense, they give up stuff on that side too. They cannot defend. They don't want to defend, and especially when they lost Dorian Finney-Smith in that trade. He was the one on the perimeter that really set the tone there. Tim Hardaway Jr. is out there. Reggie Bullock is out there. They're not stopping anyone. Reggie Bullock used to be that type of guy, no longer that player. And Irving and Doncic are not going to defend at a high level. So I look at it and I see the Sixers winning this one. The other part of defending the perimeter is on the other side, not giving them open opportunities to run in the floor and turning the ball over. We know that the Sixers can get careless with the basketball, and especially those live ball turnovers. Going the other way, once again, it's a broken record at this point when we talk about this and we say this is the key to the game. Got to do that, man. You got to make sure you get back in transition and defend the perimeter at the three-point line to not let those guys get too loose, and then make sure that you protect the basketball as well.
Good one. But we'll see. Now, remember Reggie Bullock, he was the one who was the great beneficiary of the last game of giving up open looks to other people. So
in the second half,
so the Sixers got to clean that up.
Third quarter specifically, he couldn't miss.
Now, in the Sixers' defense, they were coming off of a crazy. That was the second game of a crazy back-to-back, like flying from Miami to Dallas. Now, even if you take a direct flight on American Airlines, it's crazy. I mean, that's just I've never, in my years, this is my 10th season to cover the NBA. I've never seen a back-to-back like that before.
Really? Okay.
Normally, it's funny. Like, normally what they used to do is they used to have the Texas trip. So what you would do is, it was crazy. Like, you would have a back-to-back in there, and you might have 3 games in 4 nights. But it would be, you go to Dallas, and then you go to like San Antonio but Houston and San Antonio are closer, I believe. So you go to Dallas, then you fly to San Antonio, and you might be there for a couple of days, and then like you play them, and then the next day you go to Houston. So it was like one of those, and now they like switched it up, but the Sixers went to Texas 3 different times this season, but I've never seen that type of back-to-back, dude. Never seen that type of one.
Well, look, when in the first quarter, they won the first quarter by 3 points. I think it was 38-35. So they put up a lot of points there. I guess they were just going off of that momentum, that just following up from the game the night before. They just kept it going, where they were just going off of just adrenaline and knowing to get it. We're tired. It's right away. Let's get after it. And then it caught up to them later on with those threes in that third quarter. And then they came back and they made a respectable score at the end. But tonight, I think they snapped this 3-game losing streak and get this win against the Dallas Mavericks.
It would be nice for them.
Those teams are playing for something. So it's especially at this point in the season and the final 7 games for the Sixers, they're all playoff opponents in some way, whether it's a play-in tournament, high seeding, whatever. These games are going to be very, very important by the time we get to April 9th and find out what the matchup is going to be in the playoffs. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. On our next episode, we'll recap Dallas and Philadelphia. Now, make your second listen Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Keith, you mind letting the good folks know where they can find us today?
Like my man D said, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you get Locked On 76ers podcast. It's free and available. When you go to our YouTube channel, make sure you click on the Liberty Bell, and that way you can become a subscriber. In addition to that, you get notifications. But tonight, you're going to go check out my man D. He's going to be live from the arena. He's going to be on the air from 6 to midnight, live from the arena, giving you all the insights and everything that's going on and during the game and all that. But listen, here's the deal. Make sure you also follow my man on Twitter, right? And when you 6 to midnight, that's 97.5 FM. But follow him on Twitter at DivonG975. You can follow me on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers, and you can read my published work in the Enquirer.com, Philadelphia Inquirer. But before you go, I want y'all to make sure you go to Pompey on Sixers and vote. You have like 20-something hours left.
How many votes do you have so far?
So far, it's 653 votes. You got 23 hours, 26 minutes. And you got the Brooklyn Nets at 76%, the Miami Heat at 11%, and the New York Knicks at 13%. So everyone wants to go to Brooklyn and see the Sixers beat up on them. If it happens, but
settle down. Take it easy now.
Yeah, they're going to strip Mikal Bridges.
Take it easy.
That's what they need.
We shall see, man. Keith, is always fun. Thanks, man. Thanks to all of you out there viewing and listening. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. But hey, before we go, what do you think is going to happen if Mikal starts dogging them? In
the playoffs?
Yeah, people going to ask, hey, what do you think how you think Twitter's going to react?
I think they're just going to attack the Sixers front office and the organization for trading him.
Yeah.
That's easy. They're not going to be mad at him. They're going to be mad at them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're going to turn on him. Yeah. All right. So make sure y'all get your votes in now. Go
vote. Pompey on Sixers. Who would you like to see the Sixers play in the first round? Thanks, Keith.
All right, man. Peace.